You guys, it is that time again. It's the end of the year, so it's time for me to sit down and go through every single book I read in 2022. I read a total of 86 books this year, and I believe 85 was my Goodreads goal, so I did surpass that by one book. That has me feeling very accomplished. I've read some great books and series this year, so I'm just gonna quickly go over each one. Here they all are. I swear every time I do this video, it always feels like it's gonna be more books, and then whenever I stack them up, I'm kind of just like, that's it? What I did in last year's video is go through them in the order that I read them, so I did the same thing today. Since there are so many, I'm not going to sit here and do synopsises for each one, but I will tell you whether or not I liked it and maybe the genre or a specific trope. So, starting off, we have The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. This was the first book I read this year. This was a really good standalone fantasy novel. I did really like the concept of a Shadow King. I just wish that we got a little bit more. After that, I have my sticky note. I don't own some of these books, so I'm going to put photos here, but I read Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This was book 2 in the From Blood and Ash series. I will say that I thought it was better than book 1. However, I have come to the conclusion that this just isn't my series and I don't think I'm going to continue it, but I read that one. After that, I read The Fable Duet by Adrienne Young. I'll never get over these covers. We talk about these a lot over on Loranda, but for good reason. This is a YA fantasy series. Such good writing. Adrienne Young has definitely become one of my favorites this year. After that, I read A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. Moving on, I jumped back into the Fable world and read The Last Legacy by Adrienne Young. I then read Carol by Claire Morgan. I actually read this for one of my classes this past year. After that, I read my first Penelope Douglas, Punk 57. If you like Wattpad stories, this is it. If you don't like Wattpad stories, maybe skip that one. After that, I read The Bridge Kingdom Duet by Danielle L. Jensen. Chef's Kiss, Assassins, Arranged Marriage, Betrayal, in my top 5 of the year. Go read them. The Project by Courtney Summers. I didn't realize it was going to be a book about a cult, but it feels like that one season in Riverdale. After that, we have The Daughter of the Pirate King Duet by Trisha Levenseller yet again. So good. I liked it even more than Fable. Up next, we have The Sweetest Oblivion by Danielle Laurie. I will say, I did not want to read the rest of the series after reading this first book. It was delicious in a trashy kind of way. Up next, we have Neal Shusterman, the first book in the Unwind series. Anything that he writes, I will read. Up next, I read The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I will say, if you really love the movie, don't read the book. If you haven't watched the movie yet, read the book first. Up next, I have book 1 and 2 in the An Ember in the Ashes quartet, I believe. I do want to read more of this author this upcoming year. After that, I had another book I had to read for one of my classes, Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World. Here's the thing, this is book 2, and I think if I would have read book 1 first, it would have been a lot better. The first 2 books in the Ravenhood trilogy, I refused to read the last one because I think Exodus ended exactly how it needed to end. I will be reading no further. I feel like these 2 books are what gave me just a taste of darker romances this year, and I had a whole era, so. Speaking of my dark romance era, I read Too Late by Colleen Hoover. So underrated in my opinion, absolutely mind-blowing. This was just a crazy ride. After that, we have Ace of Spades. This was a fantastic YA mystery thriller read. This was one of the books I actually annotated this year. Crazy twists and turns in this one, go read it. Up next, we have Normal People by Sally Rooney. Not my cup of tea. I did Without Merit by Colleen Hoover. My cup of tea. The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. We then have Neon Gods by Katie Roberts, Confess by Miss Colleen, and The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. On to the next deck. Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. Really good YA mystery thriller again. We have The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. I was mispronouncing this book's title most of the year. This one was a really fun YA supernatural twisty thriller. After that, I read Hooked by Emily McIntyre. I liked it, didn't love it, but I will continue with that series. A little classic, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. We have Tender as the Flesh. This one was crazy. Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I liked it, but I don't know if I would read the rest of the series. I Know What You Did Last Summer by Louise Duncan. Oh, I then read the first 5 books in the Zodiac Academy series by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. This series is a supernatural bully romance and I devour it. We have the fine print by Lauren Asher. I read the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments series and really enjoyed these. The Love Hypothesis by Ellie Hazelwood was one of my favorite romances this year. Following that, we have The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This was one of my favorite mystery books of this year. We've got the only other classic I read this year, which was Flowers for Algernon. Absolutely brilliant piece of literature right here. Go read it if you haven't, but I'm sure most people have. I read the next 4 books in the Addicted / Calloway Sisters series. I liked all of these. It kind of just feels like you're watching a reality show. I then read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I love the cover of this book. We have The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. I liked the premise. Starting on the 3rd stack, we have Pen Pal by JT Gessinger. Next, we have Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I actually really enjoyed this one, and I didn't know if I would. We have the Never Never series by Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher. I liked it. I can see why a lot of people don't. Next, we have The Merciless by Danielle Vega. YA horror, super interesting. Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw, a sequel to The Nightmare Before Christmas. It was so good. The Whisper Man by Alex North, my favorite thriller of the year, I think. Next, we have my favorite book that I've ever read in my entire life, the Mind F series by S.T. Abbey. Technically, it's 5 books in one, but since I read it all in one sitting, I'm pretty much considering it just one book. If you ever take one recommendation from me, let it be this book. Just go into it not knowing anything, but definitely check trigger warnings if you need to. Up next, I read It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is the Waterstone edition. Beautiful. Definitely read like an epilogue, but I liked it nonetheless. We had Gothicana by RX. Ooh! Not RX, by Runex, excuse me, and I am obsessed with this cover. Gothic dark academia vibes. The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling, the sequel to The X-Hex, super good, fun Halloween read. None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marney, super interesting about juvenile serial killers. Sky in the Deep by Miss Adrienne Young, yet again she does not disappoint. Really fun YA fantasy about Vikings. I then read the next 3 books that I had in the Briar U off-campus world. These are always so solid. Contemporary sports romances that take place at one university. Sign Here by Claudia Lux is probably the most unique book I read all year, and I really enjoyed it. They describe it as darkly humorous, and that's exactly what it is. The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, another good mystery thriller. Lots of supernatural aspects. I then read all 4 books in the Madison Kate series by Tate James. Absolutely love this world, these characters. I can't wait to read more of her writing in the new year. And lastly, you guys, I read the first 7 books in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I almost made it. I still am reading Kingdom of Ash, but I'm just gonna take my time with it. In last year's video of this, I was obsessing over ACOTAR at the end, and this year I'm obsessing over the Throne of Glass series. Sarah J. Maas just knows how to do it. Every one of these is so amazing that I had to buy the box set of all the paperbacks. That should about do it. That was all 50. That was all 86 books that I read this year in 2022. I cannot believe that I read this many. Then again, I can't believe I didn't read more than this. So, read some good ones, read some great ones. I did read 20 more books than I read last year, so that's really exciting. Hopefully I continue with that trend. Overall, it's been a really amazing reading year. I can't wait to see what next year has in store. I feel like I'm finally finding the authors and genres that I really enjoy, so I'm hoping to read more of those books in the new year. One of my New Year's resolutions is definitely going to be posting more on this channel. Do I say that every single video? Yes, but I do intend to do it. Hopefully this video isn't too long, but if you stuck around, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave me some comments letting me know what your New Year's resolution is or some of your favorite books from 2022. I'm of course also always asking for video suggestions since I never know what to post on here, but I will start posting. Mark my words. And until then, I hope you have a great New Year's and I will see you next time. Oof. But overall, a really fun reading year. Why does my hand look ginormous?